Hello everybody and welcome. The regular season is done and dusted. The finals remain. The play-in just over a week away. The MVP given away. The gaze is a big hit. And of course, NBL Overtime to break it all down. Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved. The man who last week, I got told, I'll be honest, I didn't watch. I got told carried the show was Leonard Copeland. The man who told me was in fact Leonard Copeland. Man, how you doing?
Oh, I'm good, man. It's money time.
It is.
It's playoff time. It's time to shine.
This is your time, right?
This is when you shine, brother.
Hey, look at this. Abracadabra.
Oh, hello.
I'm a magician. How you doing, man? Good to
I'm
see
good,
you back.
Rick. I'm
Where
good.
were you
How are you,
last
brother?
week?
I was, where was
Swimming. He was trying to get off of that
Yeah, I
island.
know.
That island he had to get off. Yeah, that's it.
Where have you been, man? It's good to have you back.
I was working very hard. Vegas, Mexico. I did not miss, legitimately, did not miss a second of the action. And that's what happens. That's where the NBL is right now. We're going to get into it all over the course of the next hour. We're going to get to the Gazies very shortly. But if you've been under a rock, legitimately, this is how it all looks after the completion of the regular season. The play-in doubleheader just over 8 nights away. Have a look at that. Unbelievable. The JJ's at home against the Hawks, which will... What a story that is. And, of course, the play-in. Somehow the Kings have got a home final, a home play-in qualifier against the New Zealand Breakers. Yep. There's the mix and matching. The United and Wildcats crew have their feet up, and it will lead to a best-of-5 championship series, of which Liam Santa Maria we cannot wait for.
Looking forward to it. That was a very nice-looking graphic.
It was.
By the way.
Nice.
Shout out to whoever put that together. And here we are. We arrive at the championship series rematch, which is fun. The New Zealand Breakers are going to look to try to turn that around, what happened there in Game 5 last year and knock out the Kings. And Tassie Illawarra is going to be great because I think those JackJumpers are looking very, very good. And Illawarra, of course, the Cinderella story of the season.
We'll get to that very shortly. Hey, you are pumped. I can feel the intensity from you just rising.
Sure. I'm happy that my favorite team right now, the Illawarra Hawks, may get a second chance if things don't go well. You know what I mean? They're playing good basketball. Got a chance to call the game on Sunday, and they were in that game all the way to the end. They missed a lot of open shots that they need to fix, but if you fix that, you can give yourselves a chance.
We'll get to all that and plenty more. Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved. But the regular season finishes, and then just for one night only, we celebrate. The Gaze has always been a wonderful night, the MVP night, and of course, honestly, Bryce Cotton is the MVP, which we'll touch on shortly, but the night was stolen by our man, Corey Homicide Williams, well aware of what he's been going through, and the people lucky enough to be in the room and the people who didn't get an invite were sitting at home and had tears in our eyes. This is how it played out when our man, the MVP, strolled onto the stage.
How are you doing? I'm doing well. Just got a CAT scan last week, and my oncologist he's through the roof right now. I'm just glad that everything is going the right way, you know, with what I'm dealing with, one day at a time. One day at a time. I'm in a happy place right now. I'm at peace, and I'm healing. And with those messages I get every day, I thank you all, me and my family, from the bottom of our hearts. This is tough. It's not easy, you know, so the encouragement it means a lot, you know what I mean? It helps you keep going, and that's what we're going to do.
You won this particular award 14 years ago, Liam. We'll start with you, but it was beautiful last night.
Yeah, it was. It was, I love that guy, man. We never agreed. We very rarely agreed on this desk or on any desk that we've shot this show on over the years. But Corey, man, so good to see you last night. Spend some really quality time, and great to see you out and about. And good on you getting up there and sharing everything with the NBL and the basketball family, man, because they are your family and we're here with you. And it was great, man. It was it was probably the highlight of my season, him getting up there and speaking in that way.
It was emotional for me. He's fighting, which I love that. You know, you have to fight. He's a fighter, and he said that. But the message I got last night was he's going to be around. He wants people to know. My fingers still work. You know, that made me smile last night. I'm still going to let you guys know when you mess up, I'm going to be around to tell you mess up. When you play well, I'm going to be around to tell you. And my eyes got big because He spoke to me right before he went up, and he goes, how you doing this year? What's going on? So they said, yeah, there's some people coming at me for saying this and saying that. He goes, bro, don't worry about that. You be you. Do what you do. Yep. Say what you say. As long as it's the right thing, you have nothing to worry about. And dude, when he went up on stage, I got that real message. You know what I mean? And the fact that he's fighting puts a smile on my face, bro.
You mentioned the fact that we rarely agreed with him when he's on this desk.
You never did.
But it's identical now. You talk to him, and I would message once, probably every single day. And now it's arguments. Yeah. He's fighting. He's now fighting me. This is what you said in overtime, and that's the coolest thing to see. So you know what, it was amazing last night.
It's also he's got this greater level of perspective.
He does
now, and he's in a space now of really appreciating people, connections, achievements. Sitting there with him on that table last night and watching him, like. Big up, just quietly, to himself predominantly, just big up the people that were nominated or won awards and say, and just that it's clear he'd enjoyed watching those people do their thing this season.
Did you see him when I was slapping the butter on the biscuit?
Yes, sir. He's on your ass.
Man, that's a lot of butter. Hey, bro, relax and eat my butter.
And just a big one of my best mates, by the way, Jack Everett, who did an outstanding job all night, but in particular with that speech. So, Jack, no surprise at all, but that was brilliant. All right, let's get into it. Homicide's been the MVP. Bryce Cotton has been the MVP time and time again and again. Last night, he is the most valuable player. There's the votes. Chris Goulding in an outstanding season. Second, of course, Parker Jackson Cartwright. Leading that New Zealand team that have had so many injuries into a play-in next week. Going to start with you, Liam. What does this mean now? That's of no surprise. That's of no surprise. Everyone thought he would be the MVP, and he most certainly was. What does it mean on the aftermath of that number 4?
It means that he is trending closer to becoming the greatest player in NBL history. Now,
not just import, the greatest player.
Yeah. Now, I got to be honest, I never thought I'd say that about anybody. Because Drewy and Leroy was so far ahead of everybody in that conversation. And now there's a third guy in that mix. Now, it doesn't just change as a result of last night because we knew he was going to win last night. He smashed it. Here he is winning his 4th MVP, and it's a landslide victory. He's got more than double the amount of votes that anybody else got. And I don't see any sign of him slowing down. He's a 7-time scoring champion, a 3-time champion, now a 4-time MVP. It's just brilliant to have him in the league, staying in the league, and continuing to dominate.
What is he, 31 now? You give him 4, maybe 5 years of playing, if he stays healthy the way he's playing now. I think, if I'm going to say this right, I think when you say one of the greatest players ever, because I've been around for so long, it's hard for me to say that because, again, I played with Andrew Gaze. And I've seen the stuff that he went through, and yes, Cotton got beat up and gets beat up, but the stuff that Gazy went through, and then I played against Leroy. So those guys to me, and when you say, and I remember Corey being on here saying the greatest import, and everybody's like, I don't know. Now I can see what he's saying. Yes, maybe the greatest import.
Well, hang on, yes or no? Do you agree? Is he the greatest import?
I think right now he's close. But the greatest player.
No, but if he's close to the greatest import, that means he's close to Leroy. Some of us think he's probably past it.
You think he's past Leroy?
Surely there's not a humongous gap from Drewy to Leroy.
No.
So that's got Bryce right there in the mix.
Nah, again, I played against Leroy, but I played with Drewy. And I've seen all the things behind the scenes, the things he's gone through.
But you know what? You haven't seen, and absolutely agree, but you also haven't seen what Bryce Cotton has had to go through. So it's a different perspective you haven't been able to see. What I will say about this, legitimately, is I think he's the greatest import now because not only is he now got that on his resume from last night, but he's far and away the best player. It's not close. He's far and away the best player in pretty much every year he's been here. I know Jalen Adams a couple of years ago was the MVP, who was better than him in that particular season. But those 4 MVP seasons, there wasn't even a question. He was by far the best player in the league. And I can't believe I'm saying this as well. I don't think he's got to Andrew Gaze yet, clearly. But if he continues to do what he does for another couple of years, couple more MVPs, there's a conversation that I thought I would never have in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Is Andrew Gaze the greatest NBL player of all time? I'm always going to have him another one because he was my hero.
Yep.
But it's now, you can't argue the conversation is trending towards we have to have it, which is weird, really.
And I didn't play with Drewy like you did, right? I mean, I trained with you guys, but I fell in love with the game watching Drewy before you arrived.
Right.
On Albert Park, drawing the blue curtain back and catching a glimpse of the Tigers going down and Drewy having 40. I watched his entire career, now Bryce's entire career. He's trending closer to being in that conversation.
40 minutes, 48 minutes for me.
I don't think it matters.
Have you ever, and I played with this guy for 15 years. I can't remember a time when he went through a stretch, 4 games, 5 games, where he didn't get those same numbers.
But
I can't remember now. Maybe it happened.
But you know what?
I can't remember.
In Bryce Cotton's career, legitimately, we've had 7 games of that only. And it was the start of this year, and then he bounced out of it,
of course,
and was incredible. So
let's also just not fall into the trap of saying the amount of MVPs decide how good you are.
Yeah, that's right.
As well.
Yeah,
Because now it's more than just awards, but even if it's just awards, Drew's a 14-time All-NBL first team.
Yes.
14. So it's the longevity of what he did.
Yes.
The longevity of what Leroy did as well.
Unreal. Either way, freak, big shout out to you,
They're all
Bryce
great
Cotton.
players. Put it down.
That is true. Let's have a little look at what else unfolded last night. We'll start with the Coach of the Year, Dean Vickerman. Beats Justin Tatum and John Riley in third, of course. And it was always going to be close. That Justin Tatum story is, well, it's still being written as they head into what's going to be a big couple of weeks. Most improved, Sean McDonald beats Jalen Galloway. Tyrell Harrison has had a really good year. That was very competitive. And there's a few guys in there that raised an eyebrow in my part of the world. 6th Man of the Year. Somehow a team has 2 nominees, but that's the world we live in. Ian Clark, quite comfortably, no real surprise. Defensive Player of the Year, Melbourne United again. Shea Illy, 59. Will Magnay, 36. And Sam McDaniel, 34. Those 2 men at the top of it can have a big part to play come playoffs. And there is the Next Gen Award where Sam Froling beats Luke Travers, and Saar, the super Saar from Perth, is third. I'm going to start with you, Coach. Anything stand out for you?
Nothing really. I wasn't surprised about any of that. I thought everyone was perfect. I mean, the coaches, I could have had Dean or Justin in there. It didn't bother me. Both of them probably deserved it in a different way. But other than that, I was fine with every decision last night. No problems.
Yeah, for me it was kind of Coach of the Year and Most Improved were the ones that were different to what I picked. We'll talk about all NBL teams in a minute.
will.
I would have given it to Justin Tatum if it was my job to just hand the thing out. But I got no problems with Dean Vickerman winning that award because they did different jobs, but both did them really, really well. Good. Most Improved, Sean McDonald, I've got a lot of love for that guy because, you know, for a DP to win Most Improved, that's very impressive. And he did improve this year. And he's become from a really important part of that JackJumpers team to a really, really important part. But man, I feel like the leap that Jalen Galloway took was bigger. Now, I don't know about the numbers. I haven't really crunched the numbers between those guys and their previous seasons. But Galloway, for me, took a leap from being a good young player to being a guy on the NBA fringe.
Yeah.
That's a huge leap. So I'm surprised that those votes went that way.
Agreed. Again, Sean McDonald, huge. Galloway absolutely should have been the Most Improved player. Harrison was really good, but I think that what helped Harrison this year was the way they rotated their bigs in Brisbane. It definitely helped with your man, Rocco, and of course Aaron Baines at different times. So it helped Harrison play a particular way of basketball. But yeah, Jalen Galloway is going to be, at minimum, that's Summer League being knocking on the door of the NBA. That's the way I would have gone. All right, the all-NBL first team was a conversation because the NBL just changed the rules early in the season. Here it is. All those conversations. Be 5 guards, positionless. What are the coaches going to do? This is Rowan basketball. Well, in the end, Copes, that's a pretty darn good first team.
That is a very good first team. Now, it could have been 5 guards. Gary Clark, who started playing, who had a fantastic year, but picked his game up a little bit more when Justin took over. And Lamb, who was just phenomenal the whole year. Yeah, I'm happy with that.
You happy with that, Lee?
That is fantastic.
I'm not totally psyched about 2 breakers being in there, the team that finished 6th.
Okay.
I would have liked.
They were both very good, though.
Yeah.
They were both very good.
I'd have had maybe a Jack McVeigh or a Milton Doyle in there instead of Anthony.
Really?
Well, there it is. Mitch Creek, Nathan Sobey, JLA, Doyle, McVeigh, a couple of JJs in there. I think it speaks to New Zealand. I'm a huge Anthony Lamb guy. The injury probably stalled him a little bit in the eyes, maybe yourself, Liam, because I get that. I think New Zealand, had he have played the year out and not been injured, I think New Zealand would have finished higher. And I think that the voters maybe erred on how good he actually is when he was there, more so than what the games he missed. But I was really pleasantly surprised by the voters and the way they were able to put the first team together, because I think you can always pick and choose the fact that, Milton Doyle should be in there instead of Lamb, or, whatever it might be. But the fact is we haven't got 5 guards, which was the absolutely overwhelming concern from everybody. Would that have been a problem
for you?
Well,
it's a guard league.
I know it's a guard league.
Sometimes it's a guard league, sometimes it's a bigs league. So do you like the way that second team is?
Can we put it back up for a second?
Because that second team, in the previous rules, couldn't be that way.
No, it couldn't.
Because Creek, McVeigh and Lual-Lachul would have all been quote-unquote inside.
Yeah, that's right.
And you needed only 2 of those. So it's just taken the restrictions out of all of that.
Yeah,
McVeigh's a pick-and-pop guy. Creaky plays a lot on the perimeter. Those kind of inside-outside delineations don't work anymore.
Yeah, I don't believe that we'll ever have a team of 5 guards in the all-NBL first team.
You don't think that could happen?
I don't think it'll happen, because the coaches and the people who vote look at it a different way and understand that you need to have players in a pure basketball sense.
They're not making a team. They're not making a team imagining who's going to match up on who and play what spot. They're just voting in the guys who
top 5. Yeah.
Well, who are the snubs? Pat Miller?
Miller's been great. I think
Adams?
I think Adams was really, really good early, and the fact that he sometimes looks laconic might work against him in some aspects, even though statistically Adams had a great year. Crawford, but then you got 3 JJs. Yeah, maybe. I think.
Is that a problem? They finished 3rd.
No, well, yeah, that's true. Look, how many games did Vasiljevic play? Because he was brilliant. You've been high. We love him and we know he can play, but I don't think he could play to this level. There's an argument that he could have been featuring in Most Improved, because he went from a guy who's a key part of Sydney to leading this Adelaide team to something that gives you a great deal of confidence going forward. You can build on the back of it.
And I think it's fair to say, too, back in my day, the voters voted. They looked at the points. They looked at the points and said, this guy. That's the way it was done back then.
Yeah, well,
scoring average.
Scoring average.
Not anymore.
Nah.
Not anymore. I think now they're starting to
stats are
a little bit smarter now.
Yeah.
Thinking about it,
New Zealand. Let's go with the biggest game last weekend, because New Zealand v Brisbane was the big one. We do have to look at it, because New Zealand got the job done, and Brisbane Island officially lost population of. Well, it was about 15 or 16 on it, but
he almost drowned.
Oh, so close. But New Zealand fairly comfortably in the end. Abercrombie possibly his last game in front of the adoring home fans. They got the job done. But the big thing is, Copes.
Yes.
And we know what happened on Sunday.
Yes.
We've got some injuries at New Zealand. They somehow lost home court advantage. How far can this team go in your eyes?
Listen, they still got a lot of superstars on this team. But to lose Lamb and Will McDowell-White, if he's not playing, hurts him.
He's not playing.
He's not playing.
Just that.
Well,
I lose a lot of confidence in him, because those 2 guys alone helped these guys win a lot of games. Now they got a great bench. They got great players, but you can't lose 2 solid players like that and expect. Because Finn Delaney's back, but he's not playing the way Finn Delaney used to play.
Yeah.
Abercrombie is playing, but he's not the same Abercrombie. So they got big names, but they don't have those big numbers. So you can't lose these 2 guys.
No, they're cooked. Stick a fork in them.
You would say that because that's the team.
No, he's angry. He's angry.
He's angry.
Have it for Thanksgiving. Well, I'm just saying, because now with no Lamb and no Will McDowell-White, they might beat Sydney. That's as far as they're going. They're not beating either. Without those guys, I mean, with their full team, Lamb and Will McDowell-White and a fit Cheatham and everybody, they're a championship contender.
Yeah.
But without those guys, they're not making any significant run.
You think they beat Sydney, though?
They might. Who knows what Sydney's going to say?
Right. Well, it's got to be the Sydney that played the other day. They're not.
Now, so the thing with Sydney the other day, right? Yeah. They had to win, and we know the Phoenix beat them a couple of weeks earlier, undermanned and all the rest of it.
Yep.
But they had to win, and they had to do it with a fairly big margin, as we know. But in the end, do you trust them any more from what happened on the weekend, Coach? Because they are undermanned. They had Mitch Creek and then a bunch of kids who got an opportunity to show a couple of their potential, right?
Well, I got a message saying from somebody special. They're saying they changed the lineup and they pressed. They got up and in. They made them play defense. So they're a little bit hungrier.
No, hang on. It's a little easier.
Of course,
to play
it's
at a
easier.
higher rate of defense when you're
is.
playing a team
Of course
that's got
it
no
is.
players.
Of course it is. But if you watch this game,
I did.
know you're in Vegas.
No, I watched the game. It's the most fun the Kings have had in 4
Their
months.
attitude from jump ball was totally different.
Yeah, but I agree. But do you trust that attitude?
Yeah, if they come out and play like
But hang
this.
on, no, but that's you're straight away going back. Do you trust, not if they do it, do you believe they will do it? Because there's a big difference.
Who's to say? We can't call.
This is the thing.
We can't call that. We can't say that.
I trust them a little bit more after that week.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why, because they didn't look like they were having much fun playing the game. And they didn't look like they were vibing with their coach, but they did right then.
They were serious.
So our last time we saw them, what have you done for me lately? Well, you turned up and you got the job done.
Yeah.
So now they're going to, not only that, they're going to be on their home floor. They're going to have the noise of affirmation from that home crowd.
Expectation.
They're going to have a New Zealand team coming in that's undermanned.
Yep.
And they're going to see an opportunity here to go, all right, it's been rough. As Corey said last night, they've been crazy all year.
Yeah.
But now, all that's wiped away. I like the change of the lineup.
Yep.
I like Alex Tui in that starting lineup.
I knew it. I knew we'd get to a next star coach.
No, well, I'm just saying, hey, he impacts winning, that young man.
I agree.
Yep.
And it wouldn't, off the back of that, it wouldn't shock me if they win this first play-in game. Whereas prior to that game, I didn't give them any hope.
So I think they will beat New Zealand.
The attitude.
Right? And the underman break is a huge
So
reason.
then you do have more
why.
trust
No.
on them.
Well, we're talking trust on beating a New Zealand team is undermanned or going to maybe an Illawarra or Tassie.
Yeah, they're not beating them.
Well, that's the next thing, right? So, no, I've said on this show, and I will say this until NBL Overtime 2078. No team that finishes 5th or 6th will ever win the NBL title, right?
Since when did you get a big call right?
Are you joking? Every single year. When are we doing predictions look back?
So you're saying there's no team from the 5th
Nope.
to 6th place?
Nope.
As tight as the games are, as tight as the teams
It's a long
are.
road.
Mate,
It is.
So if you're Sydney, right?
Yep.
Say Sydney.
Yep.
They have to beat New Zealand, right? Which they'll probably do. Then they have to, say we're a lower ranked team, they have to go to Illawarra, beat Illawarra, a team they've had trouble with all year. Then they have to finally get to a best of 3 to take on the best team and win a game on the road. And then after that, they've then got to travel again to win a
You got him
championship.
started.
Never say never. Never say never.
I designed this playoff structure, mate. I know how it works.
It is the Kamloops wildcard game.
All right.
Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved. Olgun Ulick to join us next.
Uh-oh.
Right around Australia, this is NBL Overtime. Leonard Copeland, Liam Santa Maria, Cam Luca. Now, Olgun Ulick, the best in the business, ESPN's own. Hello, buddy.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
You good?
Yeah, I'm really good.
Hit
I'm
me.
just hit you with what?
Massive. I feel you've got something.
I got a magic show for you. I got a llama. Where's Rick the llama?
Goorjian, Brian Goorjian. Where do we sit when it comes to Adelaide?
So last night, sort of chit-chatting with everyone, NBL Awards dinner, I heard whispers that Goorjian was really close to this Adelaide job. They spoke contracts, they spoke everything. They were very close. And then Goorjian pulled the pin. I heard that. So then I asked Brian Goorjian, and just as we went on air today, I get a phone call. It's Brian Goorjian. And he basically gives me the lowdown on what's happened, right? He did talk contract with this team. They got as far as negotiating in a pretty deep way. And then it got to a point where Goorjian basically told me straight up, I don't want to be a dog. He says he said he's seen the job that Scott Ninnis has done with this team. He has a lot of appreciation for what Scott Ninnis has done with this team and what he's done with the community, the fact that the community has embraced Scott Ninnis. And so Goorjian had to think about it, pulled himself out the race. Wow. So now Scott Ninnis is back in the driver's seat. It seems as though this organization is full steam ahead with Ninnis. They have chats tomorrow about the potential of him retaining that spot, which I fully expect him to retain. But this got really far down the line with Brian Goorjian, and he decided to back out of that race.
So what happens with Scotty Ninnis now? If I'm Scotty Ninnis, I'm thinking they were never going to keep me. You think that way, or do you?
Yeah, no, I think we touched on this a couple of weeks ago. The main reason Scotty Ninnis wasn't probably leading a conversation is because someone like Brian Goorjian was available. So I think Scotty Ninnis would be like, you know what? The GOAT is available. I understand.
But Scotty Ninnis still has to eat. He has to put money. Has to put food on the table as well, right?
Yeah, well,
and he's done a great job.
Yeah, but Scotty Ninnis is going to be the coach, right?
All the signs are pointing to Scott Ninnis eventually getting this.
So you don't think he should take it?
Well, yes, take it, but I wouldn't be happy. I'd be like, wait a minute. I've done a fantastic job here. Mm-hmm. Yes, we have Brian Goorjian over here, but you're saying Brian Goorjian's gone all the way down the track, get ready to sign a contract. So Scotty's out now. If Brian doesn't have a great heart, Scotty's out
So
doing something else.
I don't want to be a dog. That was the quote.
He said that verbatim.
Now, for people who may not remember, he coached Scotty Ninnis, of course, to a championship in 1992.
Scott Ninnis
Sorry, coach.
lived with him for
they still got a great relationship.
Yeah.
Like, they have a good amount of time. Keep in mind that the chats with Brian Goorjian began as soon as CJ Bruton was fired. So this wasn't like Scott Ninnis had done a terrific job and then they were like, oh, we want Brian Goorjian now. No, this started as soon as the interim job was given to Ninnis. And they started their search, right? And part of that search was Trevor Gleeson, part of that search was Brian Goorjian. And the talks with Goorjian kept going to the point where they did have that meeting a few weeks back. But yeah, it got to a point where Goorjian basically said, I appreciate the job that Ninnis has done here. He has a relationship with Ninnis as well. Mm-hmm. This is his job.
So firstly, if you're Scott Ninnis sitting at home right now watching the show, you're saying, all right, well, the price just went up.
Yeah.
For one thing.
Damn right.
Absolutely.
If he's out of the race, then my price just went up. Secondly, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of an Adelaide fan. Now, Scott Ninnis is a great of that club, and he's done a really good job with this team. But Brian Goorjian is the greatest coach in NBL history. And you're thinking, we could have had him. You're saying, how close did they get?
They got to talking potential putting a
like this close?
on a
Do you reckon
dotted
this
line.
close? Like right here?
Give me a whole little minute just to think before I sign.
Basically, like, when can we sign and announce this, basically?
Announce.
It got extremely close.
Wow.
Now, we do need to move on, but does this diminish Brian Goorjian's coaching in the NBL next year?
Not necessarily, or as in technically, yeah, like logically, sure.
Yeah, of course.
Because there are currently no other vacancies. Goorjian he's had offers from overseas. His priority is to remain in Australia. After he hopes to win a medal at the Olympics, and then he'd love to stay here, right? And so basically all he's heard at this point is just some sniffs of what could be available, but as of now, there are no vacancies, obviously.
Well, okay, so there's not going to be a vacancy in Illawarra because of Tatum, and now there's not going to be a vacancy in Adelaide because of Ninnis. You think we see Gorge coach in the league next season?
Well, I'm hearing rumors that, it could be vacancy somewhere else. But I don't know. I don't know.
Wait.
Hold on, what?
No, I don't know.
I'm stunned because Cope's told us on this show that
I didn't tell you anything.
was coaching the
No. I don't know.
Okay. Hey, there's this. We'll move. Okay.
Do you think we see Brian Goorjian coaching in the league next season?
Do I?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, team
Do you
CEO.
see him?
No one.
Do you see him coaching next year
No one wants
in
to
the
say
NBL?
where.
I'm intrigued to see what happens in Sydney. Just because now Mahmoud Abdel Fattah is contracted for next season.
Yes.
But they're the two-time defending champs. They very nearly missed the playoffs. And he is the greatest coach in Sydney Kings history.
Yeah.
He led them to 3 championships.
Yeah.
So I'm just interested to see how that plays out, whether Mahmoud is the coach again and that contract gets fulfilled. Who knows? This King team might go on a run. I don't think it's going to happen. We talked about that before, but I'm interested to see how all of that plays out. CEOs
and the league got together today, of course, chaired by Liam Santamaria. What did you garnish out of it? Is garnish even a word?
Not really.
Garner.
It's a word, but
I was happy with
cooking,
my.
isn't it,
I was actually happy with my. You chaired the meeting, and I stuffed up the word. What came out of the meeting?
This meeting is it's just almost just part of the course of the season for these guys. They have one at the start of the season, have one at the end. A lot of it is reviewing what happened in the season, planning for next season. A lot of talks about the NBL Blitz for next season. A lot of talk about Next Stars, which you were involved in, which I do have many, many questions about. Of course, we'll keep it short here. But what's the general feel from general managers on how the program was this season and ways to potentially make it better moving forward?
Yeah, well, I didn't chair the meeting by any stretch of the imagination. I just jumped in just before to give a report on the Next Stars program for this year, potential, what could it look like moving forward, and I guess key learnings as well. All of the clubs are great partners in the Next Stars program right now. This last season, 8 of them had Next Stars. The 2 that didn't were great partners in the process of trying to get one. They're engaged in conversations with me right now about next season. So everybody's on deck. There's an appreciation for what the program is doing for the league in terms of its global relevance, in terms of inspiring young kids to see they get out to watch an Alexander Sarr. They get Trenton Flowers is not playing huge minutes, but he's a crowd favourite there in Adelaide. And then you see guys like Alex Tui and Rocco Zukowski, young Aussies, are now aspiring on the back of Josh Giddey and others to be Next Stars on their way to the NBA. So, well received.
What's your relationship with these CEOs? Any smoothness? Is it all smooth? Rocky? Because of the Next Stars, did you have any problems at all, or?
We're partners. Like when you worked hand in hand with Drewy and coaching the Kings.
We fought every day. We fought every goddamn.
Yeah, you didn't always agree on everything every step of the way, but you were working together in trying to achieve the same positive outcomes. That's where it sits.
Yep, sure.
I went to watch a G League Ignite game actually in Vegas.
Oh yeah.
I can't work out why a kid would go and play in Ignite rather than the NBL. 100 people watched the game. Flat. It blew my mind, the difference between these kids coming to the NBL and being a part of this and playing for G League Ignite in Vegas and all the rest of it. Now, Liam, and understandably so, the shoulder to Will McDowell-White earlier in the show, he said he ain't playing. Is he right?
Could be.
What? Okay.
So we see the injury there. Now, from what I'm told, he did not dislocate it. He felt a pop, he felt some discomfort, but he did not dislocate it in that space there. And so he's getting examined today. They will see what comes of it. I'd put it at 50-50.
50-50?
On whether he's available to play in that play-in game against Sydney. But because it wasn't as bad as first feared on the night, it wasn't a dislocation. It was just a lot of discomfort after sort of a pop and an awkward movement. I wouldn't go as far as ruling him out of that game just yet.
Okay.
And we'll learn more soon.
Every pick and roll on the floor he'd be in.
Crunch.
Crunch. I'm putting him in every pick and roll.
Crunch. It's a good point. Hey, Cairns Taipans, up and down. When they're hot, they're hot. And when they're bad, they're pretty bad. It meant they missed the playoffs after a wonderful run 12 months ago. What was the future hold for this particular crew?
So it got weird in Cairns. Things got dramatic at the end with relationships between people. Things said both privately and publicly. We saw Pat Miller's comments to Derek Rocker at the end of their last game. This team has its future laid out in front of it, which is at the very least next season. So you have Adam Ford contracted for next season.
Yep.
Sam Wardenberg is contracted for next season. Taron Armstrong, Sam Menenga, AK Gak will probably be back, Jonah Antonio. So you do have a crux of this local core that you can continue to lean into. All of those guys will be 1 year elevated in their development as well. And so it's just about putting the right imports around them. And when I look at Tajima McCall and Pat Miller and even Bull Kual, I don't expect those guys to be back, right?
Bull Kual.
I don't think so. I expect these guys to graduate to somewhere else. Whether Bull Kual, there are talks right now that he might be looking at Europe as somewhere where he'd like to be. Whether it's another NBL team, we'll see. But I don't think it's going to be back in Cairns. And then there's imports. We saw how the season ended. I don't expect either of those two back either. And so the thing that you can point to with Cairns is that local core. It's young. It's led by Taron Armstrong. You can see what they could build around that.
No Patrick Miller, though. Even if McCall doesn't come back, you don't think Patrick Miller would consider coming back? Or
I doubt it, especially because of the sort of glimpses we saw from Taron Armstrong toward the end of the season. I feel like it makes more sense to lean almost completely into him, put complementary pieces around him as opposed to ones that might clash.
Oh, I reckon they've got their local core is good. Yeah. And they got the local core right. I think they got the Next Star right. You got a guy like Bobby Clintman. Yes, it's going to be up and down at times, but 6'10" and can do all those things.
Yeah.
The imports, I don't think they got those right. I think they were They're great mates, Pat Miller and Tajim McCall, and it kind of, the way the season played out, it became like them.
Yeah.
They were the team. And everybody kind of just like fitted in around them. And then, of course, Josh Roberts didn't have a huge contribution.
Olgun, thank you. Big news, Brian Goorjian. No to the Adelaide 36ers, and what happens next we'll find out in the next couple of days. ESPN.com, check it all out, .com.au for Olgun. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Good job, brother.
What the heat?
He did. He dropped it like a rabbit out of a hat. Is Tassie the sleeping giant? That's next, right here on NBL Overtime.
And now the fans stand as one. This JackJumpers team will be headed to the postseason once again. And they are in the right form at the right time. 5 of their last 6 games have been wins. And they punished Perth on their home floor tonight.
A very excited Scott Roth. Jack Everin said it there, 5 of their last 6. Of course, about a month ago, Scott Roth said, we might lose our last 7. But they are flying. And again, 3rd straight year, only 3rd year in the competition, and they're back into the playoffs. And they will host a play-in game next week. Are they the most informed team in the league, Leonard Copeland?
Yes. And Scott Roth is the reason why. He's a good dude, man. He's a good dude. He knows what he's doing. That was reverse psychology. When we're going to lose 7, we could lose 7 in a row. Because he knows what he's working with. You know what I mean? And he's done it since he's been there. And I talked to him last night. He's a good dude. He's good for basketball. He's good for the NBL. That team is rolling right now.
Rolling.
You don't want to go down there because it's loud. The fans, it's a smaller version of being in Perth. Because it's so, everyone there has a jersey on. Yeah. Everyone's following that team. So.
Yeah, there was a bunch of Perth Wildcats people there for that game, and I was chatting with one of them after the game, and he said, reminds me of the old Challenge Stadium and the cauldron-like atmosphere, and the fact that that became a kind of a scary place for people to go into and play, and that's what it is down there. It was cool to be in the building to call that game.
How loud is it? How loud is it?
Your first time?
Yeah.
Didn't he give you a jersey? Didn't you get like a bottle of wine and a jersey?
Well, Drewy was there. So forget Tay-Tay. Drewy's the most popular guy. Yeah. Man, they're rolling.
Yeah.
Who is the most likely team to meet Melbourne United in the grand final series now?
Perth.
I think it's Tassie.
So
Perth is shaky.
No, so you're right. They haven't played their best basketball the last couple of weeks, but I also think that, and Melbourne United, you could argue the same, that when you get to a particular point where you know you're locked in, and Perth were going to finish second for the last month, and Melbourne United were going to finish first, and they didn't really push them enough to make Melbourne United go to another level. Perth likewise. I think they took, now it's dangerous, and it wouldn't stun me if Tasmania made the grand final and won the whole damn thing. I'm simply saying that I think you can find a reason as to why Melbourne and Perth have just lost a smidgen of focus, knowing it couldn't hurt them. While Tasmania had to continue to play well, and they got the momentum, and you need it to hold on to that play-in.
Sometimes that helps you, though.
Absolutely.
You're rolling and you have that momentum, because if you sit back and say, well, we made it, let's just take our foot off the gas, and a team's coming in at you, you can slip up. And that's happened.
And they have this experience of these last couple of years of being good, being in the playoffs, going pretty deep, but not quite getting there. There's some chips on some shoulders there. And they've got that playoff experience. They're coming in going, there's no pressure on them to win anything, but they're trying to get over the hump, and they're trying to knock a Perth Wildcats out. Man, I'm all aboard the Jackies right now.
You know what they love, too? They love coming to Melbourne. They love playing.
They do.
John Cain.
So there's 2 places they play well, actually. Well, a lot of places they play well. Melbourne is one of them. John Cain, where they had their biggest win in franchise history, that Game 3. A couple of years ago, and they've got no concerns with going to RSC Arena. And I'm not certain if it's a Scott Roth, I'm a Wildcat, chip on the shoulder. I don't know, a former Wildcat, and it leads into it. But I've still got Bryce Cotton in the 4th quarter being able to get over them.
Really? So say the JackJumpers take care of Illawarra at home, which should be a good game, but we probably all would tip the Jackies to do. And Perth have been sitting around, and they've lost 4 of their last 6, and that will be 5 in a row if that happens for the JackJumpers. You have that series going into the start of that, and you say Perth's going to win it.
I still got Perth. I am still tipping Perth. I'm not saying that the JJs aren't without a huge chance. I still will lean against Perth's best being better than Tasmania's.
You?
I got the JJs on that one. I'm sorry, because the momentum.
You just lost all faith. You just
No,
jumped off this.
I haven't lost all.
Well, seems
the
it.
problem is when you're sitting around waiting and you haven't played great waiting. You lost your last 2 games and you're waiting. And this team is at playoff mode. They're playoff mode already. They won 5 out of 6. And then they play around the playoffs. They're coming in there, going, and you're sitting there waiting on them. It's tough sometimes.
No, I'm not saying it's not tough.
Yeah.
I'm simply saying I'm going to back John Rillie in the Wildcats to be able to prepare in the way of which they can play good basketball.
It's been a funky lead-in for them. Losing these games, and they have Bryce out, then they couldn't do it without Bryce. This whole idea of you shut down Bryce, you stop the Wildcats, is rearing its head. How does Usher feel about that? And Pinder and Ty Webster. And there's a lot of, and then Riley's there today saying, well, D-Trans and rebounding, we got to fix that. They've got all this stuff swirling around that team, and they're going to sit out. And the Jackies are just going like this.
Speaking of Riley, can you really look at me, Riley? Can you smile, bro? Last night I seen him at the dinner. I walk up to him, John. He just looks like he's. Maybe he's just trying to focus.
Man, he's focused.
Maybe
When Bryce won the MVP. Give me a big smile, man. Give him a hug or something. He's just sitting there.
Hang on, maybe.
John, let me tell you something. I bust you when we played. I'm telling you, I bust you. I need to see a smile, bro. Give me a smile.
Coach!
I don't need that.
That's 20 years ago, and he's a star.
I want him to know. Next time I see you, you better give me a real smile.
I doubt it.
Oh, no.
Look at me.
You actually think he's going to smile at you now?
He better.
Firstly, you're bringing up the fact that you dropped 35 on him 30 years ago.
40.
Oh, my apologies. And now you said his team's cast. He'll be lucky to talk to you, let alone smile.
John's done a fantastic job, and he knows that.
Yes.
He's done a great job. All I'm saying is, bro, you know, it's a game. Remember now. I know it's your job, but it's still a game. Smile. Give me a smile.
I think he smiled at Rick the Llama.
Hey, you'd be the only one. What? What happened? Where are we? Adelaide. Now, Olgun Ulic, only 10 minutes ago, dropped the news that Brian Goorjian, right when he was about to sign, said, hey, I can't do it to Scott Ninnis. So he is out. If you have missed us, he is out of the Adelaide coaching job. Let's look at the roster as it sits right now. Contractually, of course, DJ Vasiljevic in that 3-year deal that was announced a couple of weeks ago. Jason Kadee, Sunday Deck, Nick Marshall on the contract. A little option for Jacob Wiley, who had a great year.
Yes.
It's a team option, which is good news for the 36ers and all those out of contracts. Liam, you're pointing. Talk to me.
Well, let's talk about Wiley, Humphries, Kellen McCarron.
Yep.
So the first question is, do you take up the team option on Jacob Wiley?
I do.
To me? Yes, I'm taking it up. Yes.
Now,
he's good for the crowd. He's good for the team. He's exciting.
Yeah.
No problems with him. Athletes have their problems with imports, right?
True. I got one major thing with Jacob Wiley. Okay. I think teams in today's NBL play better when you've got at least 4 guys who can stretch the defense, right? And Wiley isn't a three-point threat, and neither is Isaac Humphries. So I think it's based on what happens with Isaac Humphries and the decision, which I think was linked to what the coaching decision was going to be.
All right, so then let's talk about Isaac Humphries. You're going to have to pay a lot.
Pay him. Because he's had a great year.
Been unbelievable.
Pay him his money because what's the alternative? You got to go find another big now to do the job when he likes it there. He's having fun.
Yeah.
He's responding to Ninnis. Pay him.
I agree. You? Who would you keep, Wiley or Humphries? Not now, they could both stay. But who would you lean towards first?
Humphries is the one because he's a local.
Yeah.
He's one of the best bigs in the league.
And if you don't sign him, somebody else will. I'm telling you
Yeah.
now.
No doubt.
And so, all right, so I like it. I like maybe don't pay overs, but pay a lot because he's worth a lot.
Keep him happy.
And then bring back Wiley. The other thing with that bringing back Wiley is you've got Kyron Galloway as well there to play, and then so Wiley can help to support Galloway's growth like he's done this year. Now then that takes us to Trey Kell.
Yep.
We've asked this question a couple of times.
Yes.
Is he your point guard? Do you sign him and say Kell and Vasiljevic, they work well together. We won a lot of games with that combination. He's coming back and he's going to be our big PG.
You know why I signed him? Because of the history of imports that Adelaide have dealt with. And this guy has shown us he can play multiple positions. Right? He can play. You can play him at the point. You can play him at the 2. You can put him at the 3 sometimes. He's scoring well. He gets along with the coach. He gets along with DJ. He's having a great year. Keep that team. Give him a chance. Let them work together and see what happens. I'm signing him.
Me too.
I'm signing him straight away.
Me too.
If I was South East Melbourne Phoenix, I would sign Mitch McCarron to be the point guard.
Is that right?
Just
Is that something you've heard about, or what is
No,
it?
I'm just giving some advice.
You get that in Vegas or something?
Huh?
Why? Why
I
them
think-
in particular?
Well, I think that's exactly who they need. An Australian PG. They haven't been able to knock their point guard out of the park. They thought they did 12 months ago. They bring the point guard back, and all of a sudden he turned into a shoot-first guy, right? In
Right.
Brown. So Mitch McCarron, I think, would suit South East Melbourne.
Starting
If you
PG.
put some,
Starting PG.
You got to put some quality around him, though.
Yeah, but if you have him as the starting point guard, right? You've got options to build around him with the rest of the team. You've already got Mitch Creek. We know Big Sauce is going to be back. I assume.
Do we know that?
Big Sauce.
Do we know that? Do we know that?
I assume so.
It's under contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
There's a lot of people that could be under contract and may or may not come back. I mean, there's other teams that I don't know. I'm just asking, hey man.
Do you know something I don't know?
Do we know the Big Sauce is coming back?
Well, he's under contract, so I assume he is coming back.
Okay.
Which is also what I thought about him on this show, but he is unwell today, so that's fair enough. Quick break.
Shout
Plenty
out.
more next. Right around Australia. Unbelievable. Down the camera. You know what?
Yeah.
I blame Homicide. He sits with Homicide last night and he says, you need to look down the camera and barrel someone. And he went to John Riley, who's had a huge year. Let's talk about Brisbane, because in the end they fell a little bit short. Of course, the loss to New Zealand. Things didn't go their way with, of course, Sydney winning in Melbourne, beating South East Melbourne. And they're missing again, but there's a great more amount of optimism going into this off-season than we had probably 12 months ago around the Bullets. You had them finishing in the top 4.
Yep.
And you weren't too far away. They're a hell of a
fair
much
way
more
away at the
improved.
end.
Well, yeah, you're right, but I just want to make you feel better. Is it the contract situation at the Bullets as it stands right now? Shannon Scott, of course. Bannon, what a year he had. Chris Smith, McDaniel and Mitch Norton. There's options on Nathan Sobey, all-NBL second team. Casey Prather is a mutual. As you know, I don't believe mutuals exist.
So I think the fact that they've got Shannon Scott and Chris Smith under contract is interesting and worth talking about.
Yep.
Sobey, Harrison, White. I think you pick them all up. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Kobe, Harrison, White. Yes, I pick them all up.
Like
Yes.
Casey Prather.
No. I love Casey Prather, but Casey Prather's not healthy. And he's not the same Casey Prather that you guys know.
Agreed.
He's not that killer. He's not that guy that you give him the ball and say, go to work. He can't do it, man. I mean, he's a great guy, a great ex-player, but he ain't the Casey Prather that used to be.
And what about Aaron Baines?
For me, no. I'm going elsewhere because I got Zakarsky and I got Harrison. Right? If Harrison's back, yes. Maybe you bring in a third big to work with these guys, but nah.
What if Banger will be that third big?
Well, it depends on how much it's going to cost me.
It's going to cost a lot less than it did originally, right? I thought Aaron Baines was the way that I felt the bigs worked this year. The 3 of them in different stages of their basketball careers, I thought worked really well. Yeah. So if you can find the money that suits Aaron Baines and the Bullets, I think it'd be a great thing to bring him back and work with Rocco, which we've touched on this show. If I was Casey Prather, because they bought him in for next year to look at him for next year, I would keep him here and play him in the NBL 1. And give him a couple of months to see where he sits. Because you're right. It isn't the Casey Prather we fell in love with 4 or 5 years ago. We understand the knee concerns, but it was a look to him for next year. I would try and find a way to keep him here and see where he sits.
It's a big world of the import market.
I know.
You know?
So you're saying no Casey Prather?
I would say no Casey Prather.
Okay.
As you said, I love Casey Prather, and I remember him as being a 3-time champion, 2 different clubs in his first 3 years in the league. But I think they probably would have wanted to get more from him at the back part of the season and see more. And I don't think that's quite there. I like the idea, but if you're doing that, you're kind of committing that he's going to be with you next season.
Not necessarily, because there would have to be some type of a realistic conversation to say, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
If you want to play in this team, you've got to prove where you kind of sit.
You've already signed Chris Smith and Shannon Scott. Why would you have 3? You know what I mean? No.
They have a good core, though.
They do.
They have a really nice core to build. Sobey, Harrison, Josh Bannon.
Bannon's been fantastic.
Bannon was
He's been
unreal.
absolutely for 29 in that last game.
Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved. A quick break. Santa's watching, and yes or no on the way next.
Centers watching, boys. Here we go. We're going to start in Wollongong. Kyle Adnan, bang, hits the three. And everyone's going crazy. And he's picking his nose. What the?
What are you doing?
Come on, Kyle.
And what did I
Oh, man. Hey, Wiley, look at the hustle. Bam.
Good job, Jacob.
He comes back, hits the rim. He's like, oh, you're kidding me. He's right back.
This is why you signed him.
I
love
it.
him. I do love him.
Love it from Wiley Coyote. He's all energy. Mitch Creek, come on, man. Luke Rosendale, give him a break on the bench. And Chris Golding, bam. Oh. Gee, nobody likes that. That's rough. And then,
What did he say?
successful. This bloke won a car, boys.
Wow.
Have a look at the
Look at him run.
Have a look at him.
Look at him run. Yeah. Look
Can
at
you
him run.
believe it? He goes to the game.
Look at him.
His team got smashed.
Fantastic.
And he drives home in a brand new car.
Oh, pulls a hamstring and he's going.
Now,
That's funny.
Copes, before we get to yes or no,
Here we go.
as usual, Liam Santa Maria just picking and choosing what he wants to put
Yep.
on Sanders. Watching, of course, as I said, I didn't miss a second of the NBL action while I was
What's
away.
the problem?
Check this out. Just check this out, Copes. Let's have a little look at this and check the bottom left corner, right? Here it is. Here's Liam just rolling out. Oh, it's half time. Where am I going? Look at security. Excuse me, sir. Who are you? Get off the court! Mate,
And Leo go.
seriously.
Sorry.
What the hell were you thinking?
I thought it was half time.
Mate, you just
Wrong
can't
with you,
roll
bro?
onto the court.
I thought it was half time.
You've been retired 25 years, man. You're lucky. That guy just didn't put you in a sleeper hold.
I know.
Yes or no time? Does the putrid NBA All-Star game lead to hesitation towards the NBL introducing our own?
I think you got to be careful, yes, about how you set it up.
Yeah.
In basketball terms, Copes, did the Magician shoot 15% from the field?
He shot 2% from the field. Get out of here.
He might have been over.
Terrible.
Should the NBL look to reintroduce the traditional Rookie of the Year award alongside the Next Gen award?
No.
Will Taj McCall be playing in the NBL next season?
No.
Was this Chris Golding's most impressive ever NBL season?
It's good questions, Cam.
Oh, no, thank you.
No.
Is this the most important off-season in Southeast Melbourne Phoenix's history?
100% it is.
So it's yes.
Yes.
Beautifully done. John, really? You got Copes' number. Text him.
Call me, bro.
There you are.
Call me.